17, sorry.
Okay, so let's see. Unlike other board positions, treasurer doesn't really have their own event that they focus on either semester, but they are there to support all of the events that go on. So when multiple events are happening, what would be your strategy in prioritizing which events receive what kind of funding? If that makes sense.
I would say in those situations, it's important to be transparent with the people that you're people that you're working with, but also like being transparent with the people that you're working with that aren't involved in a specific event that you're prioritizing. So, for example, if we have PCN going on, but we also have smaller events going on, like ComLabs and stuff. I have to be transparent with the Kasama reps and other e-board members that like, hey, I understand that you really want to put this event on, and I'm willing to work with you, but please also understand that we have a priority for the whole we have a priority for PCN. So just like trying to be transparent with everyone that I'm working with, and not just like directly to the people that are hosting specific events, if that makes sense.
Yeah, going off of what Nadine said, I think it would be very important to be transparent, but also to communicate with your fellow board members on what they're working on, just so you can, or so I could get a better understanding of how I can plan to make budgets and allocate funds to them. Kind of echoing what Nadine said, I would want to be transparent with board members if they want to put on an event, but if there's like friendship games happening or if there's something else going on, I would have to kind of explain to them. But I don't want it to feel like I'm reprimanding them or in any way. I wanted to make sure that we're all working together and I'm not just putting them down or like casting them aside. I can also come up with other times or not other events, but just other times or other things that we could do for the time being until we'd be able to prioritize their event later.
To echo off both Tori and Nadine, to also add on, like not only to like be transparent and be having open communication with everyone within that conversation, I would also like just kind of try my best to describe and explain like exactly how, like why exactly we are prioritizing like a bigger event over theirs, and to help but to also explain like if I have the ability, if I can also try, kind of like how Tori said, to also like try and see if I can find another set of funding if I can for them, whether it's like kind of like find a way to fundraise for that said event, or to also like, but to most definitely be very communicative and open, and make sure that no one feels as if they're kind of left out of the discussion already.
So it can, there are various times in the year where it can be very difficult to differentiate what you can share with finance committee and what you can only share with the board. How do you plan on working with the finance committee to ensure the growth of the members within the committee and the improvement of the board? I would communicate with board first about what I can and cannot share, just to make sure that I'm not stepping over any boundaries, just to make sure that if there are things that we're not keeping from them, but like keeping within e-board meetings, that's what I would do about that first. But for utilizing finance committee, I feel like I would use them for fundraising events or just getting, was that part of the collection? Okay. just using them to help with any fundraising events that are going on, to hear ideas from them. The finance committee meeting I went to this year with Tristan, we talked about upcoming fundraising ideas, and he also even mentioned that we'd be helping with a fundraiser, like we'd be the ones who would post about it and all that too. And I think over Zoom, when Jalissa was treasurer, we did that as well. And I think I'd like to do that again. Basically utilize them for any publicity for fundraising events, as well as asking them their thoughts about those events as well.
I agree with Tori saying like kind of knowing where to separate what you have to keep for within eBoard and ourselves, and what we can openly share with finance community. I feel like for me personally, I would try and like list off what I have to keep and what I can share, and to utilize finance committee, kind of going off what Tori said, to also like utilize them in a way that to provide much more ideas, kind of to branch out more ideas besides having the usual like BOA fundraising. We could always like be open to other ideas that we're able to, since it's still COVID. But we still have our limited options, but it's not zero. We can always branch out, and to also be able to have them like help with the fundraising as well for like the days we set on.
I would say that for in terms of being careful, like what we are communicating to finance committee and like making sure we're not overstepping. I think as a finance committee member, it's nice to know just to get like a general temperature check on either how certain fundraisers are doing, what things are coming up, just like always communicating with finance committee, and say there does come a time where there's nothing on the horizon for finance committee or for treasurer. I think it's still important to foster community within the finance committee regardless of whether or not there are events coming up. Again, a big part of Kasamahan for me was the community that I offered, and again, that can simply just be within our finance committee, just having like conversations about each other's maybe not personal lives, but just like getting temperature checks again of like how everyone's doing, and again, like it could even also be a time to plan for possible events that we aren't certain of yet. Just kind of trying to foster with fostering community, we'll also be able to foster creativity. So yeah.
This question is kind of like half scenario based. So with like university policies changing and guidelines within student leadership and engagement updating, there are often times where requests that I make through SLE are denied. So what would be your approach to like difficult conversations that you have to make with board with their requests?
I'm not a very confrontational person, I will admit that, but I feel like being on eBoard for varsity this past semester has helped me to kind of grow as a person and as a person in leadership, to make tough decisions and also like have to deliver some bad news when it's time. I think we keep saying transparent, but it's so true. Like, you have to be transparent when things aren't going through. And yes, it will be difficult to talk about, but you can utilize your board and ask them for their opinions on what like the next steps would be. Because again, I'm not just treasurer and I'm not just one person. I can utilize board as a whole, and I don't want anyone on board to feel like it's just their responsibility as well. So I would just utilize board, ask them what next steps would be, or brainstorm with them just to make sure that, yes, well, we might get denied for some things, but I think I would also plan, like make a plan B just in case. But again, utilize my board, and if they have any ideas, I would follow through with that.
As someone who's, as a member of the Senate Finance Committee, I've had experience with organizations that have gotten denied for any budget requests, and it's not uncommon for organizations to come back with a different proposal, with a different, and like adjusting factors that may not have, that the SLE may not have entirely approved of. So I think being denied a budget isn't necessarily end game for our organization or for any events that we want to put on. We can always come back and think more deeply about the event that we want to put on, the things that are necessary, what we truly want to present to our organization and to SLE, so that we can come back stronger the next time around.
As someone who's usually the bearer of bad news, I would be very blunt and kind of straightforward of what was said and what was denied, and kind of to and kind of like how Tori said, to also like have that conversation with Igor and like what we could do next. And since it's not like as if it's not like a roadblock, like we can always overcome it and always find another way to get that the fundraising we need. And if anything, to always have like, as I forgot who said it, but to always have like another set of plans just in case if we were to ever, if when and ever we get denied.
So this next question will be our last question.
So a lot of times in the past, treasurers have talked about transparency with general members, but a lot of the information that treasurers want to be transparent about with general members, the information doesn't always come quick enough because treasurer is such a so many moving parts with so many other directors that sometimes you don't get the parts that you need moving. So what do you do when the parts that you need moving aren't moving? Wait, sorry, does that make sense? What do you do when your board, okay, say you need answers from your board, like whether it has to do with PCN or the Kappa CDs or any other board member that has a request with you. If they don't have the information in order for you to continue moving forward with financing, where do you go from there?
I would say, again, because a great thing about eBoard is that everyone on eBoard, it's like a little team with someone that's trying to represent our community well and do the best for our community. And I would say, in those moments, it's I would try to make myself as available to those said eBoard members to set up a time, just be like, hey, when is there a time that we can figure this out together and do it together? So not only so that I can keep them accountable, but also help them along the way if there are any moving parts that they're unable to find themselves.
Yeah, I agree with Nadine. I think that I would make time to meet with them and ask them when they'd be available to talk about the funds, or talk about the things that I would need to help with financing. But I also would reach out to my resources to see if there's anyone who would know what to do in this situation, just like past treasurers or treasurers from other orgs, just to see what they would say. Because I feel like if I don't do anything, I'm not going to help the situation. So that would be my way of helping. So being there for the board members who would need me once they get their information. But while they do that, I'd be asking my resources if they have any advice, and also for other people.
Kind of what's been already said, to make a time, to create a time and space for to have that conversation, and to do my best to like work with them to work with whoever needs the help of being able to go past this. And kind of like Tori said, kind of if even if I don't know, I would probably go and ask any previous treasurer